What is new, Speed Duel crew? This is your Speed Duel Professor here, coming at you with a deck profile that is a top tier meta deck at the Professor level, combining Dark Magician and Snipe Hunter, which I like to call my King of Dice Games deck. Be sure to stay till the end of the video where we go over some of the combos that this deck can pull off, especially because we are in a Speed Duel Duos format instead of a normal Speed Duel format. Starting off with our skills, we have Ever Faithful Companions. This lets us special summon Dark Magician if only our opponent controls a monster, and then once per duel we do get to search one card that is Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl, or mentions it in their text. And then we also have See Me Rolling. So in order to flip the card over, you do have to search a card with a dice rolling ability, and then put a card from your hand back onto the bottom of the deck. And then once per turn, if you would roll a dice for an ability, after the roll you can re-roll that result one time per turn. Onto the monster lineup, we are playing 3 Dark Magician. He is our ever faithful companion and the heart and soul of this deck. We are playing 2 Snipe Hunter, because after the last limit list, these 2 are now both on the limit 3, so we can only play a combination of 3 of them. We are playing 3 Sphere Karibo, who can help us stop from getting OTK'd by negating some attacks from the hand. We're playing 2 Magic Karibo. When we do take damage, we can discard him to special summon a Dark Magician from our deck or our graveyard. And then if a spellcaster on the field is destroyed, we can add him back to our hand. We are playing 3 Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo. So not only does he stop our opponent from special summoning strong monsters to beat over our Dark Magician, but he is also a great normal summon to stop our opponent from lava goleming us, which now that Burn is pretty meta, it is more significant of a card to have, because I did cut it down originally, but now that Burn is becoming more relevant, I do really want to make sure I can stop from getting lava golemed. Next we have our Breaker the Magical Warrior, who on normal summon gets a spell counter that bumps him up to 19, which is great for taking down Iron Grit Gearfried by battle, but then also he can spend that counter to go back down to 16 in order to take out a spell or trap if we're worried about some trap heavy decks. Our last monster for the lineup is Mudora the Sword Oracle. He can banish himself to put 3 cards from our graveyard back into our deck, which is going to be really vital against some things such as deck out strategy. We want to be able to not immediately lose to that deck. For our ever faithful companion search targets, we can search Dark Magician, Magic Karibo, or we have 1 copy of Dark Magic Attack. If we control Dark Magician, blow up all the spell and traps our opponent controls. 1,000 Knives, if we control Dark Magician, destroy 1 monster they control. And this one's nice because it doesn't have to be face up either. For our limit 2s, we are playing 1 Monster Reborn and 1 Allure of Darkness. So Reborn can get back our good cards like Snipe Hunter, Dark Magician, or Fossil Dyna, or if we kill one of their monsters with 1,000 Knives or Offerings to the Doomed, our limit 1, we can reborn their monster if it's better than ours, which can be very helpful. And our last card in the main deck is we are playing double Quaking Mirror Force for those battle heavy decks. So take a screenshot if you need to, and we're going to move on to the extra and the side. Moving on to the extra and the side, we are playing 1 Ojama King, 1 Destiny End Dragoon, and 1 Thousand Eyes Restrict, and 1 Cyber Blader. So these all provide us control, and Destiny and Dragoon can provide us spot removal plus burn. And these are going to be the 4 Waking the Dragon targets that we play. And then I've been testing something a little different in this deck, and I've liked how it's been performing so far. So our last 2 extra decks are actually going to be Fossil Warrior Skullbone and Fossil Dragon Skullgios. So these first four are summoned by Waking the Dragon. And then when we move on to our side deck here, which my side deck I've been testing out at event after event, and I'm liking where this one is currently at. So we have Major and Paleontology. So this lets us do fossil fusions to summon these two guys by banishing monsters from either graveyard. And that either graveyard part is important, which I'll talk about here in a second. We're playing one Waking the Dragon to hit these four in the extra deck. We're playing double Mind Crush, and we are playing double Necro Valley. So the decks that Dark Magician struggles the most with, which I will say it's pretty successful even against most decks. I don't find a lot of problems, but these can just kind of help more consistently secure the win. So the Ishizu deck out deck can sometimes be a problem. And then Snipe Hunter, if they draw the right cards, can sometimes be a problem. And Fossil decks, if they can get the right spell trap removal, they can also be a problem if you don't open your Sphere Grebo. So what this extra deck helps us do is, so Waking the Dragon does its normal thing where we can summon an overwhelming monster if they have too much spell trap removal. Our Mind Crush is mostly targeted at, so Iron Grit Gearfried, which is another deck we struggle with. If they use Reinforcement of the Army to search Gearfried, you call Gearfried, knock all of them out of their hand. It's also generally good for just calling Sphere Grebo before a battle phase, because Sphere Grebo sometimes stops us from getting game after we nuke their back row. So I like to wait till I use my Dark Magic attack, and then I'll hit them with a Mind Crush so they can't have any Sphere Grebos. Also helps with Snipe Hunter and Armed Dragon. So if they search for Snipe Hunter with their skill, just like we do, after they search during that open game state, you can flip over Mind Crush and call Snipe Hunter. Or if they play Melody of the Awakening Dragon to search 2 Armed Dragon level 10 whites, you flip this over, call Armed Dragon level 10 white, and they lose all the copies in their hand, which can be pretty devastating in both accounts. And then Necro Valley, not only does it stop the fossils, but it also helps us against the Ishizu deck out deck, which can be a problem for us at times. And then another nice thing about the Major and Paleontology, so the reason that I bumped Fossil Dyna back up to 3 is he is a rock type. But that does also mean that he's now a valid target for us to start using for our Major and Paleontology, which can banish problem monsters in our opponent's graveyard, such as Amazonas Princess, an opposing Mudora, or just any card in the graveyard, really, that we need to get rid of. Sadly, we cannot play Fossil Warrior Skullbone, because we are playing Offerings to the Doomed. If you do want to go more hardcore on the Fossil, you could take that out and put in Skull Knight. He's a great counter to people who play Amazonas Queen, Jinzo, Mobius the Frost Monarch. There are a lot of good targets for summoning Fossil Warrior Skull Knight. And then, hilariously, Major and Paleontology is a really good counter to a fossil mirror match. So if your opponent is playing fossils, you can easily take out one of these two skills. I usually would recommend taking out See Me Rolling. Putting in Major and Paleontology, not only can you use your own Fossil Dyna from your graveyard, but this is rock monsters from either graveyard. So if they've already set up their graveyard and they have a rock plus another monster in the graveyard, you can banish 2 from their graveyard to set up your own fusion plays, which can be really, really powerful because you're investing no resources except for a card in your hand and using only your opponent's cards, which is very, very powerful. And this can also be a little bit of a counter to the deck out decks. So if you throw this guy in, you are banishing cards from your opponent's graveyard, which is stopping them from getting to 15 as quickly. Um, Especially if they're stalling, at least you can be banishing cards from their graveyard, which can give you sometimes enough time to hit them for game, or stall for Necro Valley, so then they can't swap your deck and your graveyard anymore. I used to play more heavily into Necro Valley and Macrocosmos until I remembered that Macrocosmos shut down my Karibos. So I went ahead and finally ended up taking the macros out. But a couple other recommendations. If you have heavy Ishizu players in your format, Mudora and Kaiku are good options for side decking. If you have heavy back row and Quaking Mirror Force users, cards like Jinzo or Mobius the Frost Monarch, not only can you single tribute summon over something that got Quakinged, but then you also can go extra and advantage from Mobius or shut down all future Quakings with Jinzo. And then another thing, if your opponent, if you play a lot of deck out, I would put it in a third Necro Valley. And if there's a lot of burn players in your locals, a really good card, funny enough, if you get Quaking Mirror Force, is Prime Material Dragon. So he's a single tribute, which is great for Quaking. Any damage that would inflict burn or effect damage to a player increases their life points by that instead. So if you're given a Lava Golem, not only could you tribute over it, but if you tribute a separate monster, you actually gain 1,000 life points every turn, which is kind of funny. And then if any of your monsters would be destroyed by a card effect, you can discard a card to negate the activation and destroy it, which doesn't come up as often, but when I have played it and it does come up, it can be very clutch. So go ahead and take a screenshot if you need to. Let's go ahead and show you some of those combos here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and show a combo with the Dark Magician and Major in Paleontology because I haven't really seen anything like this online before. So this deck can be really, really dangerous if it goes second. So if you draw for your turn to start off with, and you have these 3 cards in hand, and honestly, you don't even need all 3 of these, but even just these 2 plus any number of cards, it just can get significantly more dangerous if you have Dark Magician as well with this combo. But you can use your Ever Faithful Companions to special summon your Dark Magician, and then you can use your effect to get a search. So some solid targets are Magic Karibo, or Dark Magic Attack, or Thousand Knives. So I normally go for Dark Magic Attack is what I'll shoot for. And then I will usually go ahead and use that Dark Magic Attack, so in case my opponent has a Floodgate trap hole, they can't use it on my Snipe Hunter, in case they were waiting on that Snipe Hunter summon, or if they were waiting on a Fossil Dyna that they wanted to flip down. But sometimes they might Floodgate the Dark Magician, so you might not always get this search. But in the hypothetical where you do, you can use this, destroy all their spells and traps, which means that you are good to go as long as they don't have Sphere Karibo. And then you use your normal summon for Snipe Hunter, and we're going to use his discard effect to try and destroy their monsters. And honestly, it doesn't even really matter if you hit. Our main goal is we just want Fossil Dyna plus 1 monster. If you don't have a monster in hand, then I would recommend, instead of searching Dark Magic Attack, you can actually always search for Magic Karibo, because then at least you have a level 1 target. But we run so many monsters in this deck that the chances of both of these being spell and traps is going to be pretty low. But you can also search Magic Karibo to make sure you have a monster. So I'm just going to go ahead, let's just say one of these is a Sphere Karibo, just for the purposes of showing what we're doing here. So we used our Dark Magic Attack. We're going to use Snipe Hunter, discarding Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo to target one of their monsters. If we hit it, we hit it. If we don't, we don't. And then we use Snipe Hunter again, targeting another one of their monsters, or depending on if they summon more than one. Or if you whiffed on the first one, you can discard again. Or if you didn't search Dark Magic Attack, you can target a back row. We have lots of options here. But then you're going to go ahead and banish one card face down using Major and Paleontology. This is going to give that skill a counter, which a lot of times I'll just turn horizontally to know that there's a counter on it. And then we'll spend that dig counter by banishing a rock plus a level 4 or lower monster to summon our Fossil Warrior Skullbone, which is another 2000 body, and during each battle phase, he can make 2 attacks on monsters during the battle phase, so even if you whiffed on the Snipe Hunter, 2000 on a double attacker is pretty good. So if you start swinging with this first on monsters, they're probably going to feel pretty compelled to Sphere Kuriboh it if it's about to take out your whole field. But then these two guys together, if you can have an open field and no Sphere Kuribohs to attack, they add up to exactly 4,000. And it's a very nasty one-turn kill. And there was one duel where I did get my Dark Magician. I think it was maybe not Floodgate, but it might have been Book of Moon on summon. So if we go back to the hand we originally had, which was 5 cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Fossil Dyna plus some monster. In the particular combo that I had Monster Born as one of my cards, and then just some other monster. We can pretend it's another Snipe Hunter. It doesn't really matter. But it just needs to be some monster here. So what I ended up doing was I summoned my Snipe Hunter. They only had one monster on the field, so I used Fossil Dyna. So I pitched Fossil Dyna to destroy their one monster, and then I pitched my other monster to actually blow up my own Dark Magician. And then I played Monster Born to bring that Dark Magician back to my hand. And then I was able to search for Dark Magic Attack. And then I blew up their back row and was able to attack for 4,000 direct because I didn't have a Sphere Kuriboh. But I also just as easily could have searched for Magic Kuriboh and or another Dark Magician, banished it face down for a dig counter, and performed a Fossil Fusion using my graveyard as well. It's just that in that case I did go ahead and just try and go for lethal by blowing up the back row. But again, I hope this has been a great demonstration on how Speed Duel Duos can create some really fun, creative, and powerful decks, because honestly, I never thought I'd see a day where I'd see these 3 monsters on the field and see them actually synergize and make sense. But in Speed Duel Duos, stuff like this is absolutely possible and very powerful. Yeah, so this has been your Speed Duel Professor. That's game. But I hope this has been a great showing of how the Speed Duel Duos format helps you be able to create combos and synergies that normally wouldn't be possible, like playing Dark Magician with fossils. That's just something that is not really possible in other formats very easily. So this has been your Speed Duel Professor. That's game.